Hello everyone, I'm Danny. Welcome to the video series of converting a Suzuki Jimny to an electric car. So I spent a bit of time de-rusting the Jimny. I started by taking the body off to make everything a bit simpler, then made a wooden frame for it to sit on. I took the body off by pull lifts on a wooden goalpost design. After that, I stripped the chassis down fully, sent it away for shot blasting again so I could make sure everything was absolutely perfect. Used electrolysis to de-rust some things, thought it was a neat idea and wanted to try it. Here we've got the chassis painted up all nice and ready, and I moved on to making my battery boxes. Everything's bolt on, and the battery boxes are fully seam welded steel all the way around to make everything watertight. I did have to do some modifications to the Jimny body due to it being a little bit rusty. Moving on, we've got the motor to gearbox mount. I started by getting some aluminium, machining it down on a lathe to get the right size for the motor, and then marking out where I wanted it on my gearbox. Once I'd marked out where I wanted it on my gearbox, I plasma cut it out and then TIG welded it together. To join the motor to my gearbox, I used a coupler onto the shaft, which bolts onto the flywheel, and then using the clutch straight onto the gearbox. Here you can see the full assembly built up. This is just a quick shot of where I put my cables, using cable ties to keep them all nice and neat, and finally putting the body back on. Big momentous occasion here. I used pull lifts again onto the seatbelt mounts, strongest part of the body, and used a engine hoist at the front. Here's just a snapshot of the cooling lines from the rear and centre battery box. And finally, when the body's assembled, this is what the engine bay looked like. After I built and installed my front battery box, it was time to connect the BMS and make sure everything works. I'm going to just show you what we've got so far. We have got it in the garage, proper mess, so excuse that. We're working on, to be honest, the final parts. We have got 3 battery boxes in the Jimny, a centre one here, one where the fuel tank was in the centre of the car, and one at the back hanging off the behind the rear axle. Each one houses 3 Tesla cells, so making it a total of 48 kilowatt hours. It's only going to be very low voltage because of how I've designed it, so it's only going to be about 75 volts fully charged. Each of the 3 packs is wired in parallel with each other, and within the 3 packs it's wired in series. It means then that if I'm ever off-roading, or if I ever have a bit of a disaster, then I can basically unhook one of the packs and then drive home. It will play havoc with the battery balancing management and the BMS and everything like that, but it means that I'll be able to get home or get out of an emergency situation. Yeah, that's basically how I've designed it. So what we've got, I'm just going to talk you through some things here. We've got a clear perspex top on the front battery box just because it's Tesla cells and they look cool. We have got our motor under here. It's an AC34 motor by hpev, 72 volt one, coupled up to the Curtis controller, the match Curtis controller from EV West in California, all the way over. Import tax was extremely expensive, so yeah, message me if I know prices and everything. We have got a 12 volt power steering pump here that I've just fitted today, not wired up yet, and that's out of a Vauxhall Astra. Thanks Damien Maguire for that thing. I think he used it on the Red Arrow project. That's then coupled up through some pipe work to the standard steering box in the Jimny, which is just down here. A bit more on the engine bay. We've got the fuse box here, which I've just mounted up today, and that's going to be the 12 volt battery just there in its original position. We have got a Hella brake booster, a 12 volt brake booster by Hella. That's obviously coupled up with a vacuum pump to the standard brakes. This car has ABS, so I wanted to make sure everything was bang on it. We have got some DC-DC converters that are going to fit in this space just here. Thanks Jeremy Bloomfield for them. Here we have, can you see that? Yeah, here we have the cooling lines for the Tesla cells. So as you can see, I have piped up the cooling lines because I think one of the best things about the Tesla modules, sorry, are the thermal management. Most people don't realize that the Tesla, when you get a battery below 5 degrees and you charge it, you're going to start doing maybe a bit of damage. But if you was to charge it under -5 or 0, which is quite common in the UK, then you're going to do some serious damage. It's also one of the reasons why if you go and stand next to a parked Tesla, you might hear "ooh," and that's the pump circulating the coolant round to make sure all the batteries are the same temperature, which means that the BMS is working a lot less, basically, so you're not taxing the BMS. As for the BMS though, and if you can see that just there, these fancy coloured lines, I'm running a SIMP BMS, SIMP BMS. It goes through all this fancy ducting just here and connects up to all of them. It's plug and play, so you obviously wire in all the clips and then it's plug and play from there. That's from Tom Debris, who works for Zero EV. Great guy, absolutely fantastic product. Really happy with it, so I'm just can't wait to get it installed properly, and I've had it running on the computer. I might put a clip in now. Everything was bang on it. I found that out of all the 9 Tesla cells that I had a 7 millivolt variation between all of them, so really happy with that. It tells the temperature of each pack. Each pack's got it, so it's got 2 temperature sensors inside it, so you can read all of that along with the voltage of each of the in the Tesla cell module. Sorry, there are 444 individual 18650s, and they are wired in 6S, so you can see each strand of the batteries, and you can read the voltage of all of them. I'm going to have a small screen inside the car that just tells me the outliers, so if there's ever a problem, or it's going to basically act as a fuel gauge. And if there's a problem, then I'll plug in a laptop and see what's actually going wrong. But that should also balance using the original Tesla BMS boards. Again, moving on, what else have we got? We have got my contactor box here. Put a clear cover on it just so basically if I can see if anything's blowing up. Which shouldn't do because, again, we're running quite low power, to be honest. Maximum current of 550 amps from the Curtis controller. So again, very, very low power for most vehicles, to be honest, but with it being such a small 4x4 and the max speed of it will be about 65 miles an hour. Feels a bit unsafe over that speed, being if you've ever drove a Jimny. Then this motor should suit perfectly for it. It's got more torque than the standard motor. It's got less horsepower, but I spec'd it using a dyno graph off the standard engine. Looking at the dyno graphs and basically what RPM I took it to, then I chose it like that. Again, moving on to components that we've got in the car so far, we have got a big 4-inch induction kit here that cools the motor via some bilge pumps, I believe, by a bilge fan, I believe it is. Very, very powerful fan, so it should keep it nice and cool. On the back of the controller, we have got a chill plate. I milled myself out of 20mm aluminium, and that couples up to a Minimoto radiator and a Minimoto header tank. And it's going to be powered by a 12-volt aquarium pump because they have a 100% duty cycle, which is quite important for a cooling pipe like that. Coming over to the other side of the car, we have where the charger's going to sit. A bit of a mess at the moment, if you can see, but I have got an Elcon charger just here, a 6.6/7 kilowatt charger. It was about the highest power I could go with a charger. It's quite a substantial bit of kit. It's got cooling fins in it with the pump, with the cooling fans just there. You can get it water cooled, but I didn't want to complicate things anymore, so hopefully everything will be okay being just air cooled. Maybe I just have to lift the bonnet when I'm charging, but we'll cross that bridge when I come to it. Again, that's just going to sit on these rails just here and fit snugly in there.
That's it for part 1. Be sure to check out part 2 of the electric Jimny project so we can take electric off-road.